DHHS, which is going to be the one that's going to take care of the Medicaid, not Medicare. That's for our elderly. Medicaid, which is for our poor, um, and a lot of times disabled, different things that fall into the category that doesn't fit under Medicare, but people need help. Uh, we funded them $600 million. They had proposed to us that they thought it would be 800 million max, and now they keep kind of raising it up, but it's still around 800 million is what we truly believe. If they'll go through and clean up the program some, they need to make sure that they got the right amount of people and that cut the fraud out. But even at worst case, maybe we're 100 million apart. Now, in the past, when we've done a budget, we have never sent them all of their money at one time, because you want to see somebody blow something, give them a whole bunch of money. Kind of reminds me of my mom, and when my sister and I would go to the county fair here, she would give us $1 and we would go and do a whole lot with that. And when we would blow that money, we'd come back and she'd give us another $1. Now, she had already told us about the most she was going to give us was probably $5 a piece. Now, we could take some of that home or we could blow it all. And I done both. I've been there. And I'm just telling you, if she'd have gave me the whole $5, I'd have been broke in about 15 minutes, because I'd have bought a couple plastic swords and I don't know what all. Back in the day, that was a big thing. So anyway, kind of the same principle here. We've always kind of done it quarterly. This time, since we knew we would probably be gone for a large amount of time, we gave them $600 million. Well, all of a sudden the governors, and that'll fund them to April, when we're going to come back in the short session. Now, we're coming back little bits at a time anyway, but that'll fund them. And so the governor looks at that and makes a political statement out of it by saying, "Oh my gosh, they've shorted us at least $200 million. So we've got to cut services, and we're gonna cut the amount of pay we're gonna let the doctors and the hospitals have on Medicaid different services and the patients, and they're gonna have to come up with different. This is a horrible track." Well, no, folks, they've got the money. They've got enough money to run till we get back 1st of April, if we don't do something in the meantime. And we have put 2 different bills out there, one sitting in our chamber and one sitting over in the Senate. And the difference is the start of a down payment that the Senate put in theirs for about a $1 billion children's hospital that Phil Berger, I'm pretty sure, wants named after him. I like to call it the Steinberger Children's Hospital, because I think the governor would love to see his name on it too. And we live on in infamy. But we don't have an appetite for that right now in the House. I guess maybe because we're not going to get Destin Hall's name on it. No, that's not true, Destin. I'm just picking. The reason we're not going to do it is we have 5 really good children's hospitals across the state. And I'm going to tell you what, it's going to cost about $1 billion to build this hospital. Now, they're going to tell you 600, 700 million, but I've seen government work before, and I know what that means. And you can about add another 20, 25% to it by the time it's said and done, because, folks, we still have a lot of inflation. Those products that it takes to build hospitals are the same type of products it takes to rebuild Western North Carolina, which is your concrete, your asphalt, your steel, your cement. All the things that you have to have, your electrical, your wiring, all that stuff, copper, you name it, all the stuff's expensive right now. And we need it in Western North Carolina. So I get that we want to take care of our children. Right now, they tell us there's approximately 150 to 200 kids at any given moment that are in a different hospital in a different state than using the ones here in North Carolina, because we don't have the specialties that they may need. Well, I can tell you right now, if we build a children's hospital, we're probably still, and just one, that's all it is, we're still not going to probably have all the different specialties and the abilities that other hospitals have, because they specialize in these different things and these rare diseases that they have. And so we're going to still have kids out of state. And understand, I always say, if it costs $1 billion to build it, it'll cost a minimum of $500 million a year to run it. So you're looking at cost multiplied over generations, decades, and that'll only increase. I think if we're going to do anything, I'd rather see us take the money and help reopen or rebuild or do whatever to a lot of the rural hospitals that we've lost. I tell you what, you get an arm cut off between Wilmington and New Bern and Greenville, North Carolina, there's a darn good chance you're not going to make it. you're too far away from a real hospital that can, and it probably needs to be more severe than an arm cut off. I'd say a serious heart attack. It's going to be hard to get you where you need to be. There's kind of a desert down there. Now, I'm not saying there aren't some good little hospitals, but there are not as many as there once was. And so there's a lot of areas where it's going to have to be a helicopter get in there to you. And that may take a while, longer than you think, because it's got to leave Greenville and fly to wherever you're at and then back. And so it's not an easy proposition. And so I think we could use this money more wisely if we're talking about hospitals than building another completely standalone children's hospital. So that's the difference. We both got the same amount of Medicaid, roughly $200 million to add to the $600 million to fully fund it. It's just, we don't want to go ahead and start the process of building an ungodly expensive children's hospital where we think we got to spend the money on the 5 we got or on the rural hospitals. We don't think it's a good use of money. So there's a fight right there between the House and the Senate. You would never believe that, would you, that we would have a fight between the House and the Senate? No, just on everything we do, it seems like here lately. So that's kind of where the ball is at right now. It's bouncing along, but Josh Stein wanted to have a special called-in session. That hadn't been done in a long time, so that's going to be one of these things that, a lot of publicity. Here comes the governor. He's going to come speak to us. I'm sure he's going to chastise us for not being able to play ball together. And my speakers put out a response, and I like to read it because I thought it was pretty good. In response to Governor Josh Stein's call for emergency session on Medicaid funding, the North Carolina House of Representatives reaffirms its strong commitment to protecting patients from the governor's politically motivated and unnecessary provider rate cuts. While Josh Stein's own state health administration has confirmed that Medicaid is funded through April 2026, North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services cut rates on October the 1st after the General Assembly appropriated $600 million for the rebase, and that's a fancy word for what we'll do to pay. These actions are unprecedented and conflicts with years of bipartisan work between the General Assembly and the executive branch to fund Medicaid with multiple separate appropriations over the fiscal years, while also providing oversight on the program to ensure proper administration. Despite the governor's unwarranted cuts, House lawmakers have already taken decisive bipartisan action to provide additional funds to the state Medicaid rebase, passing 3 clean standalone bills. You ever heard of this? Clean bills? That's a big thing nowadays. Clean bills? This one is. In recent months to ensure our state meets its obligation to the parents and providers. The House has also offered to provide written assurance of future funding commitments to prompt the NCDHHS to pause its destructive cuts to the providers. The Stein administration has indicated that any of the following 3 House-approved proposals would lead them to drop their cuts. And so it goes on, but House leaders have repeatedly urged Governor Stein and DHHS to halt this harmful rate cuts and work with the General Assembly to maintain program stability. Our Speaker, Destin Hall, the House has done its job to fund Medicaid with clean bills and is prepared to do more if needed. We need to resolve this matter quickly to protect patients, support providers, and assure long-term stability of North Carolina Medicaid's program. So until recently, the General Assembly had worked with the executive branch to provide funding to Medicaid while also monitoring the program's integrity. The administration should have continued this practice. So it's up to us to go back in and convince, I guess, all of y'all that this has been a manufactured, I don't even know the right word I want to use without really going off the rails. So this is going to be a manufactured emergency. We'll call it that for now, because there is no issue with the funding. They just want to make some kind of a big grandstand media blitz moment out of this. Typical. This is what we work with all the time. We see it on the national stage with the national Democrats shutting our government down because they want to use a bayonet to force some issue instead of trying to debate it and talk about it. I thought it was almost comical when President Trump said, well, let's just give the money to the people instead of to the insurance companies that we supplement so much with Obamacare. And the Democrats were just aghast that we would actually hand this money to the people that need the medical insurance instead of just giving it away to the medical insurance companies, which we've been doing ever since Obamacare, and we doubled down during COVID. And that's the part you don't realize. We doubled down in COVID, so they even got more money and are still getting it, and we're out of COVID. So that's kind of where we're at. So we'll go in probably and we'll have this special session, and I think it ought to be really interesting. So if anybody wants to call in and talk about any of this, 704-873-9929. Love to hear from you. Well, Cecil Brockman, and y'all probably don't know that name, but he's a representative from over in the Greensboro area, resigned from the North Carolina House this past week. He had been arrested for sexual abuse of a 15-year-old minor on multiple charges. Now, Cecil has been in jail for about a month and a half and is on a $1 million bond. And, the funny thing, it's not funny, none of this is, but before we've had different ones over on the other side, and Cecil's on the other side of the aisle. He happens to be a Democrat, and no, we're not perfect on our side. This could easily have happened to us, but it happens to him. All of a sudden, you want to hear him talk about, well, there should be due process. He should go to court and have his day in court and say, no. They don't like Cecil because Cecil's voted with us before on different bills. So as soon as Cecil got in trouble, there was a demand from them that we, the Republican-led majority, expunge him from the House, force him to resign, take away whatever. We needed to call a special session to do that. And they were just having a fit. And we're like, well, what about due process? Well, hey, we don't like him, so we don't want him to have due process. Kind of funny how the hypocrisy over there just continues to slap them upside the face, but we'll see. We'll see how this goes. It's kind of funny. They had already, Josh Stein put out that he was going to spend $1 million against Cecil in a primary. So some other Democrat would take his place because he's actually voted with us some. Because although Cecil may have a lot of criminal issues, he's also had some common sense and went with some stuff that we've done that makes sense. And so they don't like that. So, the faster they can get him gone, I guess the easier they can start figuring on where to spend that $1 million that Josh Stein has got donated to him and going to use on House races and Senate races on some other candidate. So now I guess they look like they just saved $1 million. So good. Let's see what happens there. But it's kind of been really weird and really funny to watch how they go about this. Whenever Julie Van Hafen come out and put on X some stuff about Trump being deheaded and all that, or beheaded, that was fine. She didn't really do anything. She was just reposting what somebody else had posted. That really wasn't her. It looked a lot like her, but that's fine. We shouldn't do anything there. But poor Cecil, and I ain't saying what he did right or not, or whatever. There was no due process in him at all. It was hanging, just get rid of him. He's gone. So there you go. So moving on to the next step of this. So guess what? The Dems have filed a lawsuit against the new congressional maps that we drew about 3 weeks ago now, District 1 and District 3. We moved 6 counties from District 3 to 1, and we moved 4 counties from District 1 to District 3. And the funny thing I think about their lawsuits is it's basically the same plaintiffs from the lawsuits that they filed in 2021 that are still in the court system that haven't been decided yet. So the same people, the plaintiffs they use, and they got these 8 citizens. I don't know who they are. Evidently, they must live everywhere at all times because they're in these districts and other districts, and they're across the whole state. But same names roughly, and same law firm, believe it or not. And it's the Elias law firm, which is Mark Elias. And I always kind of get a little nervous about somebody that spells their name M-A-R-C instead of M-A-R-K, but that's just me. I don't really like a lot of Jeffs with G's either, but I think J's is what it's supposed to be. But hey, that's just me. I don't hate them. I just kind of worry about them a little. So anyway, he was Hillary Clinton's lawyer for her group and staff in 2016, whenever they tried to go after election fraud and this, that, and the other. So he continues to be there, and their claim is this has diluted the black vote. And so we'll see. Reverend William Barber. I know a lot of you go, hey, I think sounds familiar. He's a pretty large man, that black preacher from down east that had the Moral Mondays, and I don't know. It's just been one thing after another. And I guess why he really doesn't like Republicans is whenever the Republicans took control of the General Assembly. Now, I'm not going to tell you I know this 100%, but I've heard it from many different sources. Theoretically, somehow or another, he was totaling out getting close to $1 million worth of funding through different ways in our state budget. And somehow or another, all that money went zip and gone. And he ain't been happy ever since. I'm surprised, but he's not. So we'll see. But he's been at it again, and he wants us to just figure out here. He's going to sue us all for this, and this is all the GOP led. And of course, the GOP said they did not look at any racial data. They did not look at any voter data. What we did actually was, if you look at the map, it makes sense. It kind of puts the counties, all that were in the Northeast, more together, and all the counties in the Southeast together, instead of have them kind of commingled a little bit. It makes an even line. And if it works out that that's an advantage to Republicans, well, we can't help how geography is. I'm sorry, folks. We just can't. So, anyway, but if anybody want to call and talk about that, I'll be glad. So let's get into this a little bit here real quick, and then I've got my crazy as it gets. So the Dems are celebrating big wins in Virginia, New Jersey, New York City. There was talk that Republicans would pull off upsets in these places, but it didn't happen. So let's just say here, remember the key word there, upsets. So not guaranteed to win, and the Dems come on, but the Dems say, oh, well, we won here, so this is mandate. This is all against Trump and Trump's philosophies. Folks, these places have been blue. They've been blue for a long time. Actually, the Republicans creeped in here in 20. They also did a little bit in 20, but they really did it in 24. And the Republicans worked their way into what was always blue. Virginia, unfortunately, has been blue now for close to 20 years now. And Governor Youngkin's kind of come in the back door because the candidate on the Democrat side, and I can't remember his name, got up there and basically told them he didn't want them to have a school choice at all. I mean, he laid it out real quick in a debate, didn't realize what he had said until after it was out. And that kind of cost him and allowed Glenn Youngkins to kind of sneak in. But I look at New Jersey, and Chris Christie, which I'm not sure what party he is, but I think he said he was a Republican, was the last Republican governor there. So that's been probably pushing 20 years ago now or so. So when the lady won there, that's not a surprise at all. The Republican did run a good campaign, and they brought out many things that didn't make a lot of sense that the Democrats had done in their General Assembly and their past governors too. But evidently it wasn't enough to sway the unions and all the different ones that always go to the left. And as far as New York City, well, we get to look at how socialism works up close and personal, because that's what we've elected here as a socialist. And I always remember, folks, socialism it doesn't work. And when it doesn't work, that's where you have what we call, which is going to be a little more difficult since New York City lies in the United States of America, it turns into communism, because socialism wants you to give everything you got to everybody else. Communism makes you give everything you got to everybody else. So when the first part doesn't work, it comes to the second part. I always say the only place possibly that socialism could work would be heaven, because we're all supposed to have really nothing other than the worship of the Lord, and whatever is there is shared amongst all. But you know what? This is not heaven. That's going to be wonderful, and this ain't it. Until then, we're dealing with people, and people don't do what they should. Like I said, socialism will never work until we all put all the shopping carts back in the right place in the parking lots where they're supposed to. Then, maybe. Went to Washington this past week, and I learned a lot. I got to hear from Robert Kennedy, the head, Robert Kennedy Jr., the head of the Department of Health, talked a lot about morbidity and also chronic disease, and especially chronic disease in our young people. And, he drew a line and said something changed dramatically about 1989. And I guess I was, very fortunate, born in 1964, way before that. But he said basically then the immunization panel was probably about 18 different things. I think now, give or take, is somewhere between 60 and 73 different things that you get immunized for. And know this, his big thing was, if you can ever make it as a drug company into that immunization panel, you got it made. He said, you're going to make about $1 billion a year profit. You're not going to have any marketing, and you don't have to worry because you have immunity to lawsuits once you're in that panel. So you don't have to have a legal department to defend you. So maybe that's one of the reasons why we went from 15 or 20 up to 70. Just saying. So copping a line there from Sawyer and Coble down there. But also got to take a great little tour. Senator Tillis and Senator Budd were there, and also Tim Moore, Congressman Moore, Congresswoman Virginia Fox, and Congressman Greg Murphy. And they allowed us to go on the floor of the House and the floor of the Senate. Maybe I shouldn't tell that. Maybe that's top secret. But it was really cool, y'all, to sit in the desk that Ted Budd has now that was occupied by Jesse Helms, who I worked for when I was in college during one of his campaigns, and to go and sit there and you open the drawer and senators that were there before you sign inside this drawer, and to see Jesse Helms' signature and sit in that chair, I thought was pretty daggum cool. I'm just going to tell you. All right. So now we get into basically crazy as it gets. And I've had so much information here lately. I've been doing it in part. So part one, crazy as it gets. So the other day, Chuck Schumer calls a press conference and shows up to it late. I bet he won't do that again, because all of a sudden, in the audience sitting there, I guess either there for support or just wanting to hear it firsthand, was Senator Bernie Sanders. Yes, that's right, the socialist from Vermont. And so while the mic was there and nobody was at the podium, next thing you know, the press coerced Senator Sanders to get up and talk. And boy, did he. And he got up and explained the split in the Democrat Party and how they had, the traditionalists, the mainstay, we'll call it the old Democrat Party and their ideas. And then the new one, which was leaning really far left to socialism, and that the old party needs to embrace the new party because that's what's coming, and they need to embrace Mondani in New York. And also, I think there's a guy, Graham Planner up in Maine, who's kind of running on a socialist platform too, for the Senate in Maine. So they need to embrace him. And so it was on, and he talked about how good it was to see California Proposition 50 passed, and he just went on and on and on, and basically just spilled his guts on anything and everything. And I'm thinking all the Democrats out there listening that are in the know, as we will say, were cringing severely. It's one of those things that you ever notice that the older maybe people get, and I was doing it when I was younger, so I'm really bad, but whatever you think comes out your mouth before you really think about it, that's what we were seeing with Bernie Sanders. He ran on and on and on. So anyway, that was pretty interesting. So if you want to, go look at that. You can pull it up on YouTube. Very enlightening. Kind of tells you the struggles of the party that's split over there. So real quick, gonna get into this and I gotta get off. So crazy as it gets, part two. So the mayor of Fort Lauderdale, Dean Trantalis, he's 72 years old, was attacked and then dragged across the street by his ex-lover, David Curran. Curran already had a restraining order issued against him from Trantalis. They had been in a relationship back since March, and it recently split apart, according to Trantalis. They were trying to reconcile when the fight broke out. He said he was trying to get Kern's help for his mental issues. The mayor sustained multiple injuries. This happened on Saturday a week ago. But Trantless didn't call the police until Wednesday when Kearns reappeared in his driveway. All right, now I'm not laughing at domestic violence. This is just kind of crazy, though, and nor am I homophobic. But this just seems crazy that there's a 40-year age difference, and they're out fighting in the front yard, and this younger man's dragging this old man around. I don't know. So, hey, who am I to judge in the 50-year difference, or 40-year difference? Because, I look over and you got Bill Belichick and his girlfriend Jordan, and that's about 50 years different. So, but I still think this is about as crazy as it gets. It's just a little different, folks. I don't know. Somewhere or another, you'd have thought he would have called the police after they got into the tussle and he got beat up and drug across the street. But evidently, I guess he didn't want to. So, weird times that we live in. Let's go ahead. It's about the end of the show, so I'm going to say a prayer for us because it sounds like we need it. Dear Heavenly Father, dear Lord, I just thank you for your blessings. Lord, I pray for wisdom. I pray for guidance. I pray that we care about each other. But I pray, Lord, once again, for common sense and to be able to function as a government, both locally and nationally, and have people of moral value, of some kind of ability to actually fill these leadership roles. And I just pray you raise men and women up to do these jobs and that you bless them. And I pray all this in your holy, precious Son, Jesus Christ's name. Amen. Folks, until next week, take care.
Thank you for tuning in to Taking Care of NC. We hope today's program offered valuable insights into the topic shaping North Carolina's future. Stay informed, stay engaged, and join us next time as we continue exploring the issues that matter most to our state. Until then, take care and thank you for being a part of the conversation.
Real Country is 550 AM WAME. 92.9 W225BD, Statesville.
WAME and Bunce Johnson Funeral Home are proud to present our national